message is more for sales managers and senior managers than it is for salespeople. But it's about salespeople. So if you are a seller and you've stumbled across this video, by all means, feel free to share it with others. It's not fair to the salespeople on your team if you are expecting them to meet their quotas and goals, but you're not adequately resourcing them. I don't think that means you have to go out and spend a lot of money on enablement tools, bells and whistles, great big support teams, but it does mean you have to do enough so that your salespeople can focus on selling. They shouldn't be doing administrative work. They shouldn't be the CRM desk jockey. They shouldn't be the ones who are reinventing products or creating marketing materials. They need to be selling. They will sell more if you set the expectations and resource them adequately so that they can sell more. Sales grow when salespeople are supported in the right ways. Sales productivity increases when you pull the right levers to create a productive environment and a more productive seller. I'm including within this sweeping generalization resources like training, coaching, tools, good products, time spent on understanding what it takes to advance the sale faster. If you're not supporting your salespeople in these ways, you're limiting the sales effectiveness of your entire organization.
Over the 3 seasons that I've had a straw bale garden, I've gotten better and better about understanding how to support the plants as they're growing. This year, I did something a little different with the peas. I took gardening twine and created rows about every 6 inches, in addition to what was already available on the trellis that I'd given them. And this year I used different types of tomato cages for the biggest tomato plants, and then I used the small tomato cages and put them right in at the very same time that I transplanted the pepper plants. Pole beans, and I've got pallets that I've put up for the vining plants and all sorts of things to give the right level of support to the plants that need that type of support. Turns out that support is even more important in straw bales than it is in the garden that you grow in traditional dirt. And that's because throughout the season, the straw bales continue to break down, and by October, they're pretty loose. They don't hold themselves up very well. You have to support the last plants by supporting the bales of straw themselves. But it's all worth it because I get so much great yield out of the straw bale garden. I found these really cool tomato cages. They fold up and they stand vertically when you're not using them in the extended way that you see here. That saves me a lot of space indoors when I'm not using them. And they were an investment. They're a little pricey at the beginning. I got them on sale at the end of last season and saved a little bit of money, but they're so worth it because they are extremely sturdy, and I know I'll be able to count on them holding up the plants even when the straw bales aren't doing as much of the holding up as they do at the beginning of the season. The smaller plants, the peppers that you see in the upper right-hand side, they got what used to be the cages supporting the tomatoes. They were just too small. My tomato plants far outperform the ones that I put in dirt last year. They got so big and they were so heavy because of all the produce that they were putting out. They just needed something a little bit stronger. And this year I'm growing a lot of pole beans. There are 2 types of beans, bush beans and then pole beans. And I'm growing more pole beans this year. They have to have a pole to attach to because many of the drying beans that I prefer are pole bean in style. And I'll get a good strong yield out of those. I can dry beans and put those away. Dry beans will last virtually forever. So I'm stocking up on those. My cucumbers had good support last year, but they went wild. They grew up the supports, they grew down the straw bales, they were out across the gravel ground. They just were so productive, so that this year I've spread them out just a little bit. I planted fewer. And believe me, I have plenty of pickles to last for a lifetime, so I'm not growing the pickle cucumbers this year. I decided to go just with standard cucumbers and not that many of them. But here's my favorite thing of all, and I'm giving it a completely different support system this year. It has an entire archway support. What you're looking at is a gourd. It's a luffa gourd, L-U-F-F-A. And what many people don't know is that a luffa gourd is where you get a loofah sponge. Loofah sponge, the kind that you use to scrub your skin, or you can use them to wash dishes, that doesn't come from the sea. It's deceiving because it's called a sponge, but it comes from this very interesting gourd. I limited my loofahs last year because I didn't give them a tall enough trellis to climb up. And that limited the size that they were able to grow to. The longest one I had was about as long as my forearm plus a little bit of my hand, so a little longer than my forearm. But I've heard that these can grow to the size of an adult's leg. So I'm going to give mine a lot more room to grow this year vertically and hope that they will yield more for me. Here's what happens when you harvest your luffa. You leave it to the point when it gets yellow, and you let it dry out just a little bit, and then you'll find a thread on the outside of it that you can literally unzip, and it opens up. And then when you open it up, you let it dry a little bit more, a couple of days, and then you cut it and wash it and pull all the seeds out of it, and then you leave the pieces to dry. This is what I'm showing you is from 2 of the luffas. I had 5 altogether, and I hope this year to have at least 10, and every one of them to be a lot bigger than they were in the past. That will all come from giving them a better support system, one that doesn't inhibit their growth. You know, the same is true with people that you work with. You'd never want to inhibit their growth. You want to give them all the support you can, and then, because you've given them that support, that opportunity to grow, they're going to give more back to you in the long run.